The forests of Maine are ancient and deep. They hold secrets older than any town, older than any road. Towering pines stand like silent sentinels, their needles whispering stories on the wind. These are tales the locals know but rarely speak of aloud. Strange lights dancing between the trees, sounds that have no earthly source, people who walk into the sprawling wilderness only to vanish without a trace. It is a place where the line between our world and another feels unnervingly thin, where the familiar rustle of leaves can suddenly sound like a warning. The woods have a memory, and they don't easily forget. They are echoes of real events, fragments of mysteries that have stained the state's history. Generations have passed down hushed accounts of hunters who followed a trail that simply ended, or hikers who were there one moment and gone the next. The wilderness here is vast, a labyrinth of granite, moss, shadow. It's easy to get lost, they say. But what happens when getting lost doesn't make sense? What happens when the disappearance defies all logic, leaving behind a silence that is heavier and more terrifying than any scream? In the heart of this enigma lies a specific kind of vanishing, a phenomenon we now call missing 411. These are not ordinary missing person cases, baffling, strange, often occurring in or near national parks and forests. The victims disappear under impossible circumstances, sometimes from right under the noses of their loved ones. They leave behind no scent for search dogs to follow, no tracks to indicate a struggle, no answers for the families left behind in a state of perpetual torment. Tonight, we delve into one such story. A story that begins on a cool August night in 1975, deep within the Chain of Ponds area, a remote and rugged part of the state. It's the story of a little boy, a family camping trip, and a mystery that would become a dark legend whispered among the pines, because something might be waiting there for you. Imagine the perfect stillness of a forest at night. The air is crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. The only sounds are the gentle lapping of water against a distant shore, the occasional call of a lonely loon across the lake. But sometimes, that profound silence isn't peaceful at all. It's a heavy, watchful silence, the kind that makes the hair on your arm stand up for no reason you can explain. The campground was small and isolated, a tiny pocket of humanity carved out of an immense, untamed wilderness. Tents were zipped up, campfires had dwindled to glowing embers, families were settled in for the night, lulled to sleep by the false sense of security that nature can provide. For one family, the Newtons, this trip was meant to be a joyful escape. Ronald Newton, the father, worked hard to provide for his family. He looked forward to these trips, a chance to teach his son about the outdoors, and to spend quality time with his wife, Jill. Their son was Kurt Ronald Newton. He was a bright and energetic 4-year-old boy. Like most children his age, the world was a giant playground waiting to be explored. They arrived at Natanis Point campground on Friday, August 29, 1975. The family found a spot near the edge of the woods, a little more isolated than the others. It offered them privacy and a perfect, unobstructed view of the forest that seemed to stretch on forever. Little Kurt, full of boundless energy, explored the immediate area around their site, his small feet crunching on the fallen leaves and pine needles. They felt safe and secure in their little bubble of civilization, never once imagining that they had brought their beloved son to the very edge of a timeless, hungry mystery. The next morning, Saturday, was beautiful. The Maine sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue. Ronald decided to take him on a short fishing trip to a nearby pond, a classic father-son activity. They didn't catch anything, but that didn't matter. The point was the shared experience. After a while, they headed back to the campsite. Kurt, an energetic 4-year-old, was getting restless. He wanted to ride his favorite toy, a little red tricycle. His parents were only a few feet away preparing their lunch. This was the last moment of normalcy, the last moment before their world fractured. The forest is patient. It was just waiting for the right moment to act. The moment it happened was shockingly fast. It was a flicker of time, no more than a few seconds. In that sliver of time, the happy sounds of his son playing on the tricycle stopped. The sudden quiet was what first alerted him, but the campsite was empty. The little red tricycle was there lying on its side, but Kurt was gone.
He called out his son's name. Kurt? The name was swallowed by the immense forest with no reply. Kurt? He called again, louder this time, a note of panic entering his voice. "Kurt!" Jill joined in, her voice sharp with rising fear. "Kurt!"
They looked behind their tent, behind nearby trees, under bushes. It was impossible. He was just here.
They ran in widening circles, shouting Kurt's name until their throats were raw.
There were no tracks leading away from the campsite, no signs of a struggle. Other campers heard their desperate cries and came to help. A small, frantic search party formed, fanning out into the woods. But as the minutes stretched into an hour and then longer, a horrifying realization began to dawn on everyone. This was not a simple case of a lost child. The forest had taken Kurt Newton, and it was not giving him back. The terrain surrounding the Natanis Point campground was not child's play. It was difficult terrain for a grown adult to navigate quickly, let alone a small 4-year-old boy. The idea that Kurt could have covered any significant distance in this environment in mere seconds was not just unlikely, it was physically impossible. They noted the lack of any clear tracks. Kurt was wearing sneakers, which should have left some impression. Yet there was nothing. To get out of sight in that clearing, he would have had to cover at least 30 to 40 yards. To do so on uneven ground, and to do it so quietly, stretched the bounds of all credibility. It was as if he had been lifted straight up into the air, leaving no evidence of his passage on the ground below. As dusk began to bleed into the Maine sky, the authorities had been called. They established a command post, confident they would find him before the night was over. But soon, the searchers started to notice something else. The woods themselves had gone quiet. One of the most reliable tools was brought to the scene, a team of highly trained search dogs. Each time the result was the same. There was no scent trail leading away from the spot. For multiple trained bloodhounds to be completely unable to find a trail was unheard of. It defied everything they knew about their craft. As the official search continued, a different kind of story began to take shape. The older residents were honestly not as surprised. They had heard tales like this before. They whispered stories of the Wendigo, a malevolent creature from Algonquin folklore, a spirit of insatiable hunger. Other rumors pointed to something else, something not of this earth. As they pushed deeper into the silent, watchful woods, the chilling local legends began to weigh heavily on their minds. Days turned into a week. The search for Kurt Newton was one of the largest in Maine's history, yet the result was always the same: nothing. The official search was scaled back then with heavy hearts, called off entirely. For his family, the torment was just beginning. They returned home not to closure, but to a gaping void where their son used to be. The lack of a body, of any evidence, denied them even the grim finality of a funeral. Their son was simply gone. The legend has grown far beyond the initial news reports. It has become a modern folktale. People leave small tokens. They come to stand at the edge of the clearing and try to comprehend what happened. So the next time you find yourself at the edge of a deep, quiet forest, listen closely. It's a reminder that we are small, and the wilderness is vast, ancient, and full of secrets. And some of its secrets are hungry.